On the Paper Talk today, we'll be looking at Manchester United's interest in a defender and a midfielder. What's going on there, we'll find out. Also, the latest update on the takeover talks, not the transfer talks, the takeover talks. Is it going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe or is it going to be Qatar? Let's find out. Jay here, Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside at Old Trafford and it's pretty drab. It's spitting, get them in, it's spitting. Loads of stories to get through. We'll have an update on the latest takeover talks, although there isn't much of an update, but I'll give you what there is. There's also a few transfer rumours to get through as well, plus a little bit of the fallout from Sunday's pretty underwhelming 0-0 draw here against Southampton. Plus, we'll mention as well Gary Lineker gate, what's going on there, because it's dominating the headlines, so we'll get into that one as well. I know it's not technically Manchester United related, but it's football related, isn't it? And it affects us all. Right, we'll start off with a little transfer rumour here that's come from Correia da Manna even. Now this is according to their recent report there. United are ready to move for sporting defender. If I can find who we're ready to move for, there you go, Gonzalo Iniasso. Manchester United apparently interested in him, could be available for 40 million quid. Sporting, obviously, in the Portuguese league, not doing too well, really. They're well off the top, well off the pace. I think the amount, I can't remember, it's like, I think there's at least 15, but probably more. I think they're in fourth anyway, but he's having a good season. Manchester United looking at reinforcements in the centre of defence. He looks like he's affordable, someone who could come in and do his job. He's only 21 as well, so he is going to get a lot better. You'd expect him to get a lot better, and maybe he could be an option. It's a bit weird with our centre-backs in a minute, because you've got your first choice in Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez. You've got Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof. Maguire, the smart money would suggest, would leave in the summer. I don't think he's going to stick around being third or even maybe fourth choice. Then you've got the likes of, well, other players who just probably aren't going to get looking like Eric Bailly. I think he's on loan and is that going to be a permanent thing? And then it's like, well, who else is there? You know, you look at some of the other players, the younger players that have gone out, and players like Tuanzebe and Will Fish and players like that. I think Will Fish's move is about to be permanent. Then there's sort of a need for some backups, some players that can come in and do a job as a backup and potentially long term come in and be first choice. So he would definitely fit the bill there. So we'll keep you posted on that one. It's one to monitor and see what happens. But Manchester United, according to the latest reports, are interested in him, and at 40 million quid it kind of makes sense as well. On the Harry Kane front, there's a report in The Athletic that Spurs are not contemplating selling Harry Kane, but United still interested in him, so we'll have to see what happens there. Obviously, Harry Kane, massive player for Spurs this season. I'd be surprised if they were sort of briefing the press or coming out with, yeah, we're ready to sell him in the middle of the season when he's so integral to what they're doing. But Manchester United been rumoured with him for a little while now. We did hear the other week that talks have actually got underway with United and Harry Kane's camp. So we'll have to see how that develops. But Spurs saying, no, we're not selling him. So you kind of expect that. But as always, any updates, any developments on that one, we will keep you posted. Now, there's been a little bit of a fallout from the Casemiro red card. Erik Ten Hag talks about how the referee influenced the game, and he said how he have to live with his decisions, sort of thing. He didn't want to get into it too much because obviously he's aware he can get himself in trouble if he's overly critical of the referee. I thought the VAR on Sunday was odd. I'll say that one. I think you can argue that you think Casemiro's challenge was a red card, especially when you slow it down and look at it. But then why wasn't there a penalty given? And I'm not even, why didn't the referee give it for the handball? And also, why didn't VAR even look at it or tell the referee to look at it? That's what I don't get. We also saw it in the Newcastle game with Nick Pope. That seemed a little bit odd to me. Then there was the Chelsea game as well, where there was a challenge just as bad as Casemiro, and nothing was done about that one. So there's no consistency. VAR doesn't seem to be helping anyone, if I'm being brutally honest. It doesn't seem to be fair, and it's just slowing down the game. And if you're in the stadium or if you're at home watching it, doesn't matter. You're sort of waiting and sort of you almost scared to celebrate things at the minute. I just think it's been a bit of a shambles. Anyway, we live with it. Casemiro will now miss 4 games. The 4 games he will miss are the FA Cup quarter-final against Fulham, a game against Newcastle, that's going to be a tough one away, Brentford and Everton. So Brentford and Everton, I think they're at home, those games. Fulham's at home as well. The Newcastle game is going to be a tough one, but we'll have to see what happens. United are going to have to shuffle apart. Erik ten Hag's going to have to make some changes, and hopefully we can still get a result. It's just a little bit frustrating because Casemiro now, it means he's missed 8 games through suspension. He missed the Arsenal game because he got that yellow card. I think that took him up to 5 yellow cards against Crystal Palace. He missed 3 games because he got the red card against, was that against Crystal Palace at home? I think it was, for the old incident where he shook Will Hughes, or he put his hand round Will Hughes' neck or his collar, however you want to term it. But missing 8 games through suspension, when we're not even done with the season, we're barely like 2/3 of the way through the season, it is a little bit worrying. Now, Erik ten Hag was pointing out, well, look at the kid. You know, how many red cards? He had 500 games, whatever it was, for Real Madrid. No straight red cards, I think. Yeah, now look at it. He's had 2 straight red cards at Manchester United in the past 5 weeks. But whilst I do think, especially one against Palace, was a little bit harsh, the player himself has got to look at it as well and say, you know what, do I have to be a bit more mindful? I don't know, we'll have to wait and see, but it is a little bit of a concern. Just on that front though, with Casemiro, it's sort of shone a light on how reliant we are on him and how short we are in midfield, especially defensive midfield. Now it seems like United are monitoring João Palhinha from Fulham. Now this kid, he's 27 years old, defensive midfielder. Fulham are having a very good season. I think they're about 8th, aren't they, in the Premier League, and he's been integral to their success this season. And it seems that Manchester United, according to the papers here, it's in the Independent, it's in a few other papers as well, that United are interested in him and have set their sights on him this summer. Now, also, Newcastle, Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal and Spurs are looking at him. So United aren't going to have a free run at him, but he would be ideal for me because he's someone who could come in and he could play either alongside Casemiro, perhaps if you had the whole double pivot, or if Casemiro did need to be rested or was suspended or whatever, he could come into the team and do a very good job as well. You feel pretty confident, I would anyway, with him in midfield. I don't think he's as good as Casemiro, but he's good. And I think that's what matters. I think if you're looking for someone as good as Casemiro, then you're going to be found wanting. But if you're looking at someone who can come in and do a job for Manchester United, if we're challenging next season, as I expect us to be, for titles and things like that, I don't think he's far off that. And I know that's quite a heady compliment, but if you look at what he's done for Fulham this season, he's been outstanding. They're a much better team when he's in the side. So I think that's an interesting move. I'll rattle through some of the other stories as well. In terms of the takeover, feels like we're in a bit of not an impasse, maybe a bit of a war of attrition here with these bids coming in. Jim Ratcliffe remains confident that he can be the next Manchester United owner, according to the Times. Fabrizio Romano, in his podcast, has refuted suggestions that Qataris could be ready to do a U-turn. I think there was reports in Sky that if the price was too high, that Qataris would walk away. He said he doesn't think that they will walk away. And that, he said, here's what he said actually. He said, from what I understand, the plan of the Al Thani family and the Sheikh Al Thani is still the same. He wants Manchester United. It's not true, as we saw around, that he's prepared to leave the negotiations. So they're saying that he is ready to, or he is willing to stay, and he wants to make it work, and he wants it as well. Just before I wrap up, I just want to say one final thing about Ian Sterling, who passed away recently. Ian was a friend of mine, worked tirelessly as part of the Manchester United Supporters Trust, a dedicated Red from Salford. Listen, he did so much for fans here at Manchester United, especially match-going fans as well. He's one of the reasons we've got safe standing here in parts of the ground. I used to joke with him that it was a bit of a thankless task what he did, because he worked on behalf of fans with the club, so he had to sort of liaise with the club, try and get the club to do things, and work with fans as well. And if you're ever sort of on a European away and you were stuck or you needed some help or something like that, Ian was your go-to guy, and he did it without wanting praise or thank yous or any of that. He just did it because he wanted to help fellow Manchester United fans and make this club better, and he did that, and he'd be sorely missed. I'm gutted that he's passed away, and my thoughts are with his wife and his daughter, and my heart goes out to them and to all his friends as well. And Manchester United will be a little bit worse off because Ian Sterling's not here anymore, and it was fitting that the players paid a tribute with black armbands for the game here against Southampton. I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. We're back later on with the Paddock podcast. We've also got, of course, all the reaction. If you want to get into that and see more reaction from what happened over the weekend, then by all means do. And I just almost forgot. I forgot to mention the Gary Lineker thing, did I? Apparently, according to the latest reports, the BBC and willing to get back to the negotiating table. Talks are progressing. It's like a transfer in it with Gary Lineker, and it looks like he could be back on Match of the Day very soon. We'll keep you posted because it all seems a bit silly, a storm in the teacup and distracting from the real issues, which I won't get into right now, but I might share on the Paddock podcast. I've been Jay. This has been the Paper Talk outside a pretty dreary Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.